Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Tiffany and today I'll be answering the most frequently asked questions about pregnancy and first-time motherhood after 40. That's next. Stay tuned. All right, so welcome to Midlife Mama. I'm Tiffany, and this channel is where I share all of my experiences about being pregnant for the first time at 45 and all the little things in between that come with mommyhood. So we're in the middle of a rebrand and I've been hitting pregnancy really hard, but I thought it would be a great idea to wrap up the whole pregnancy series with a frequently asked questions video. So these are questions that I have been asked more than once while I was pregnant and during postpartum. These questions have popped up in comments on Facebook, on Instagram, and some of them even in my email. So some of the questions are anonymous and some of them will have names and YouTube channels attached to them. So if I mention a YouTube channel and you're curious about that channel, it will be linked in the description box below. And all of the videos in the pregnancy playlist will also be linked below, but you can also just head over to my channel homepage and find the pregnancy playlist there as well. Before I get started, a brief history about me is that I found out I was pregnant for the first time at 45 and I had my first baby at 46. She is now almost 20 months old. So I'm going to start moving into what it's like being her mommy and what first-time motherhood is like in your mid-40s. You can probably hear her in the back. She's very vocal lately. Anyway, so that's what's going on. That's where we are. And the reason I wanted to do these questions is because they get asked a lot. So maybe it'll help you if you're thinking about babies after 40, and maybe you can relate to some of these questions if you're thinking about babies after 40, or if you've already had a baby after 40, or if you're pregnant and about to have a baby after 40. So this is my experience, and that's what these questions, the answers to these questions are based on. They're based on what my experience was being pregnant at 45 and having my first baby at 46. So that's it. Without further ado, let's get into these questions. They are in no particular order, so it might seem like it's just a little bit all over the place, but stick with it. There's some good information that might come out of the answers to these questions. So here we go. Okay, so the first question is, did you experience lighter or shorter periods? In my video about how I got pregnant at 45, I'll iCard that video up at the top. In that video, I discussed my periods, and I had irregular periods before I got pregnant, all the way up until I was 35. And then my periods regulated. They just became regular like clockwork every 26 to 28 days. They were normal periods. They lasted usually between 5 and 7 days. And I had some light cramping with that, but nothing out of the ordinary. It was just like a normal period. After I got pregnant, about 4 months later, my period came back, and it's just as regular as it ever was. There's no difference in my periods now than before I was pregnant. So the answer to that question, that's the long way. The answer to that question is no, there hasn't been a change in my periods. The next question is, did you have more complications after pregnancy? The only complication I had after pregnancy, and I cover a little bit of this in my postpartum video, the only real complication I had after pregnancy was my blood pressure spiking. And I had to go on medication, different medication for that. I was still on the medication that I was taking while I was pregnant, and that medicine was no longer working. So, yeah, I had to switch medications to regulate my blood pressure because it did keep spiking after pregnancy. The next question is, could you nurse? This question is when I was pregnant, I wanted so badly. It was my plan to exclusively breastfeed. So you can imagine my surprise when I realized that I was going to have a hard time with nursing. I could not keep my milk supply up no matter how often she fed. And when I would pump, I would only get tiny little amounts of milk, maybe an ounce or two, and that was it. And I did start to get discouraged, and eventually, but I was discouraged, but I was determined to keep trying. And I did realize that it was going to be more difficult than I expected it was going to be while I was pregnant. So, but I was determined to keep trying. And then my blood pressure was spiking a lot. So I had to switch medications. And because she is my first baby, and because I was a little bit overprotective about what was going on with her, I did not, the research I got on the medication that I had to go on, the research I got was that it could get into the bloodstream, which could put it into my breast milk, which could eventually affect her. And so I did not want anything affecting her. So I didn't feel like it was a 100% safe for my daughter. So I stopped breastfeeding. And to be quite honest, stopping the breastfeeding and putting her on formula really made my emotions sort of even out, because I was so worried and so frustrated about not being able to keep up with her feedings, and not being able to feed her enough, that she wasn't getting enough breast milk from me. And it really just sort of sent my emotions in a mess. So stopping the breastfeeding, even though I did not want to, the struggle was, I struggled with breastfeeding exclusively because I felt like it was the best thing for her, and putting her on formula. And making the final decision, well, the switch in medication made the decision for me, but making that decision took the pressure off. It took the pressure off me trying to succeed at breastfeeding, when it was just really, my body did not want to do it. It just would not keep up with her. She would feed every hour, and you would think that would keep my milk supply up, but it did not. I ate the cookies. Every trick in the book I tried in order to get my milk supply up. It just was not working. So having to take her off of breast milk and put her on formula really evened out my emotions and took the pressure off. So that's another long answer to a short question. Could you nurse? Not really. A little bit, but not really. The next question is, do you feel awkward around other new mothers because you are older? And the answer to that question is a little bit. Yeah. I do feel a little bit awkward around new mothers who are younger than I am. But the good news is that there are lots of ladies around that have had babies after 40 or close to 40, who are closer in age to me than moms in their 20s. And not to say that I don't have anything in common with moms in their 20s, because the common ground there is that we're all moms for the first time. And we all had the newborn experience, or went through or are going through the newborn experience. And that is something that is a common thing that we share, no matter what age we are. But when we get beyond the babies and we get into developing a friendship that's not just based on the fact that we have babies the same age, older mothers, I tend to lean towards older mothers, or mothers who, already have babies and grown up. I have friends who are my age, but of course their babies are all grown up and they're about to have grandchildren. And so yeah, I do feel a little bit awkward, but I try to remind myself that we're all moms for the first time, and we're all going through a little bit of the same thing. So the next question is, did you work all the way through your pregnancy? Pretty much, yeah. I work in a kitchen, if you don't already know that. I am a pastry chef, and I worked until the middle of November, and I had my daughter in early December. So yeah, I worked up right up until 3 weeks before I was about to give birth. And I had to stop working though. I was prepared to go all the way through, but my doctor was concerned about my blood pressure, so he took me off work, and I waited out the last 3 weeks at home. But yeah, I worked on my feet through my pregnancy. I did have to make some adjustments in the kitchen. I did have to move to light duty, and I did have to take more breaks than I normally take in a day at work. I just had to make a few light adjustments, and I made it all the way through to 8 months and some weeks. So the next question is, do you suffer from fibroids? And before I got asked this question, I've been asked this question several times. And before I got this question, I didn't even know what a fibroid was. I still don't even know what a fibroid is, because I didn't have fibroids. I didn't suffer from them. So I don't know what that experience is like. So this is going to be a short answer, because the answer to that question is no. No, I didn't. The next question is, how old were you when you started your period? I was 16. And to get more information, or to hear the whole story, I card the how I got pregnant. All of the answers to questions like this are in that video. But to answer the question here on this video, I was 16 when I started my period for the first time. The next question is, was this a natural pregnancy? And the answer to that question is yes. The next question is, what medication did you take for high blood pressure while you were pregnant? Okay, so if you don't already know, I did have high blood pressure during pregnancy, and I did post a video about having high blood pressure during pregnancy and how to have a successful one. Again, I'll iCard that video up at the top, and it'll be linked below. The medication I was on for high blood pressure during my pregnancy was called labetalol, and I'll put the title or the spelling of that medication across the bottom of the screen. It was labetalol, and they took me off my blood pressure medicine and immediately put me on that one, because it's the medication that is safe for the baby. Okay. Woo. I hope this video is not too long, but if it is, you guys just hang on and stay through the whole thing so you don't miss anything. All right, so the next question is, how was labor and delivery being older? Because my experience was terrible at 21, so I'm just curious. Okay, so I didn't have any labor, and I didn't have to experience delivery because I had a cesarean. So real quick, I did tell the birth story in a blog post, so I'll link that below if you want to read the entire story. But really quickly, I was scheduled to have labor induced on December 5th. And I went into the hospital at 7:30 in the morning, and I was induced. And 8 hours later, I had not even dilated past fingertip. That's the term I kept hearing, was fingertip. 8 hours later, I hadn't even dilated, and Nevaeh hadn't dropped a single solitary inch. So, but I was given Pitocin, and just labor would not start for me. So I ended up having a C-section. And the worst part about my labor and delivery was getting the needle stuck in my back. It made me cry. I did not like that experience at all. And the other thing was a little strange, was smelling, because I could still smell it. I couldn't feel it, but I could still smell when they made the cut across my abdomen, or I guess I don't know, wherever they cut you to get your baby out. That smell, I still smell that smell sometimes. But other than that, yeah, I had a C-section, didn't have any labor pains, and that was it. The worst part about my experience was the needle in the back. So Brianna from Mama to Violet, she wanted to know, what was the scariest moment and the best moment of pregnancy? The scariest moment of my pregnancy was learning that Nevaeh was growth restricted at week 28. I had an ultrasound. It was a regularly scheduled ultrasound, And according to my apps, Nevaeh was supposed to be 2 pounds or more. And when they measured her, she was weighing at 1 pound 13 ounces, which put her below the 10th percentile for babies at that gestational age. So she was diagnosed as intrauterine growth restricted, and that was the most scariest part of my pregnancy. If you want to know more about that experience, you could just let me know in the comments, and I'll do a video about that experience and what my treatment was and how my doctors took care of me while I was going through that. Yeah, so you can also read about it on my blog over at midlifemama.com. But yeah, that was the scariest moment, learning that she was growth restricted. The best moment was feeling her move around in my stomach. That experience for me was deeply personal, and I loved every moment of it. I would sit in my car on my way home from work. I would park in front of the house and sit, because it was that time of the day when she was really active. So I would sit in my car for, I don't even know for how long, just watching her move around in my belly. It was my favorite thing to do while I was pregnant, was to feel her moving and see her moving around in my belly. And once she started moving, and once I started to feel it, a lot of the anxiety sort of dissipated, because I had a lot of anxiety while I was pregnant. I did. It was my first pregnancy. It took so long for it to happen. I really did not want anything to happen to this pregnancy. So when I couldn't feel her moving around, I just... Okay, so apparently there's a sound issue, and all of the sound from this point on got cut off. So where was I? So the best part of my pregnancy was being able to feel her move around in my belly. A lot of the anxiety left, and yeah, that was the best part. Okay, so thank you, Brianna, for that question, or those 2 questions. The next 2 questions come from Erin over at Sildorf6, and I will definitely have her and Brianna's channels linked in the description box below if you want to check those 2 channels out. So Erin's questions are, the first one is there anything that they do differently for a high-risk pregnancy versus a low-risk pregnancy? The difference between a high-risk pregnancy and a low-risk pregnancy, care-wise, is that they watch you more closely, which means you get a lot of ultrasounds. You get a chance to look at your baby almost every time you go to the doctor. So with my doctor, I had 2 doctors. So my regular OB-GYN, and when I went to see my OB-GYN, I didn't get ultrasounds from him. He really just measured my belly, asked me some questions, took my blood pressure, and listened to the baby's heartbeat. Most of my ultrasounds came from my visit to my high-risk doctor's office. I don't think that that's the experience for everyone. Some people have the high-risk doctor and OB-GYN in one doctor. I ended up with 2 doctors. But the difference is they watch you a lot more closely, and you get a lot of ultrasounds. The next question from Erin is, what did you crave the most? And I didn't really have cravings when I was pregnant. I like to eat fruit. I like to eat salty foods. I lost my sweet tooth pretty much. I didn't want to have sweet stuff as much. But specific foods, I didn't have really specific cravings. I just types of foods like salty foods or fruit. Something refreshing or light or tart. Those are the kind of things that I wanted to eat when I was pregnant. So thank you, Erin, for those 2 questions. Again, you can get her channel linked below. It's called the Sildorf6. And Brianna is Mama to Violet. And all right, moving on. The next question is from Lexi Davis at LJTV, and I will have Lexi's channel linked below. You should watch her wedding video. It's really cute. Lexi wanted to know, was I worried about having a baby at this age, and was it planned? And I was worried, yes. I was worried from the moment I found out I was pregnant until I actually gave birth to her. There was something to worry about all the way through it. And was it planned? Quick answer, no. You can hear more about that in the How I Got Pregnant at 45 video. And my little one is throwing balls off of the pool table. You can see her in the back. Yeah. So yeah, no, she wasn't planned. But you can watch the video below to hear more about that. Okay, and the next two questions are from Janae at A Jarvis Thing, and I will link Janae's channel below in the description box as well. Janae wants to know, how do I feel physically? I feel fine, other than the postpartum stuff that I covered in my postpartum video, which was the back pain and the stiff joints and the fatigue that I still feel after pregnancy. I feel fine physically. Once I get through the stiffness and I get up and moving, I'm pretty much okay. It's just when I stop and sit in one place for a long time that I have the issues. But as long as I'm up and moving, I feel pretty much fine. I do get tired. So at the end of the day is when the fatigue hits and the stiff joints and all that happens. But during the day, I feel perfectly fine. Her next question is, do you think, or do you feel you would have been the same mother that you are now if you'd had your baby earlier? And maybe if I had her in my 30s, I might have been the same mother. I'm closer to the person I am now. That I'm closer to that person. I was closer to that person in my 30s than I was in my 20s. So I think that if I had had her in my 20s, I would have been a different mom. Still a good mom, I believe, because I had such great examples of motherhood growing up, but a different mom. I just would have been a little different to the mother that I am now. I think that, I hesitate to say this, but I think that when you have a baby in your 40s, after years of waiting for a baby and not getting the baby that you longed for, or if you've gone through all kinds of ups and downs trying to get pregnant and you're dealing with infertility, when you finally have your baby, after all of that, there's a little bit more of a, I can't really describe it. It's extra precious having your baby later in life after years of waiting or after going through a lot and dealing with a lot of infertility. Yeah, I don't want to say that moms who have a lot of babies or have babies after, or who have babies early, I don't mean at all to say that their babies aren't precious to them, but there is a different type of preciousness. It's the best way I can describe it. There's a different type of preciousness that happens when you go through not being able to do what is most natural for women, what they feel like they have been born to do and what they feel like they should be able to do easily because that's why they were created. And suddenly the most natural thing is difficult for you. When you finally succeed and you get your baby, there's a different level of preciousness. That's the best way I can say it. So I don't think that I would have been the same mother that I was in my 20s that I am now, because it would have been a different experience. I hope that answers the question without being offensive to younger moms. But yeah, that's the answer to that question. So thank you, Janae, for those two questions. And again, you can check out her channel. It's linked below. And finally, the last question is from Latoya, and her channel is Sapphire, and she's also linked below. Latoya wanted to know what most people want to know when they find out that I didn't have a baby until I was after 45, is why I waited so long. And if you watch the video of how I got pregnant at 45, then you already know the story and you already know the answer to this question. But if you're here for the first time and this is your first experience with the channel, I didn't plan to wait this long. That's the way it worked out for me. That's the short answer. Yeah. Again, you can watch the video above. I wasn't trying to wait until my 40s to have a baby. That's just how it happened for me. Okay, so thank you, Latoya, for that question. And my little one is getting restless, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this information was helpful to you. Catch up with me on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter for day-to-day stuff. Hit the subscribe button if this is your first visit. Turn on the notification bell if you haven't done that already. Hello to all of my new subscribers. There's a lot of y'all. Thank you guys for being here. Hey, what's up to all my day ones, the people who have been here since I started the channel. Thank you guys for being here, for rocking with me on the channel. And that's it for this video. Thank y'all for being here. Keep commenting, keep subscribing. Hit the thumbs up button if you like this video and you want to see more videos like this. And I will see you all in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye. Bye. Yeah, bye. Bye, guys.